Para começar, então, nosso painel, eu chamo ao palco o presidente e CEO da Gucci, Marco Bizzarri, o presidente e CEO do Grupo Iguatemi, Carlos Jereissati Filho, que serão entrevistados por Tim Blanks, que é um dos críticos de moda que eu mais amo, e é editor do Business of Fashion. Please welcome to the stage Tim Blanks, Marco Bizzarri e Carlos Jereissati.
I should say, Oi, Sao Paulo. Now we've seen that film, which rolls the last 2 years into one remarkable ball. There's a question that's so obvious to me instantly. How has this happened so quickly? And there's one person who knows that answer, and that is Marco. So I want to know how this worked as well as it did so quickly. And looking at that, you can see it's a very, very brave thing that Gucci has done. How much of a risk was it from the beginning?
Good morning. I don't have an answer, frankly, in the sense that when I had the chance to manage Gucci and I was appointed by François Ripinot, we didn't have any creative director. And that, of course, is the most important choice that you need to make before deciding what to do about the brand. I had clear ideas in terms of where to position Gucci, and I really wanted to bring it back to fashion in the real sense. But first and foremost, I wanted to bring back emotion to Gucci. I think that in that specific moment, back in January 15, everybody was doing approximately the same things. There was a kind of a distance in entering a luxury shop, a kind of a marketing-driven activity more than creativity idea behind. And thinking about fashion in the past, fashion has always anticipated trends. I hear a lot about listening to consumers, focus groups, etc. But in most cases, unfortunately, or social, consumers, they'll just look at what's happening today. And sometimes, in order to make sure that you're going to make something that is going to last, not just for 2 months, but maybe for 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, you need to take a risk of changing and disrupting, if you want, the way in which people think. So to answer your question, I think the main choice has been bringing back emotion to Gucci and putting creativity at the center. And to do so, I wanted to make sure that the culture in the company changed. When I entered Gucci, there was a kind of a culture of fear. And again, I don't want to blame anybody. It's just a matter of choices. There are companies that are very successful with a culture of fear, but they are not my values. I really wanted to bring back something that is about respect, about passion, about joy, about happiness, because I believed, and I still believe, that if you're able to create this kind of movement, this kind of culture in a company, then the creativity can blossom. So it's not because I like happy people, don't really care. It's not a matter I go to have a smile, I can go to a bar, to a cafe to see happy people. It is instrumental to create and to foster creativity. So this was the thinking behind. And then I had the chance, and luck is as well a good talent, to meet Alessandro. That was not the person, that was not in the list of the candidates when I joined Gucci. It was 12 years in the company, so I wanted to change dramatically Gucci, and the guy was there from 12 years. So it happened that I had the chance to meet him and to fall in love with him, and then from there we started. So the risk has been huge, but it would have been a bigger risk not to do it. Because the status quo today in any industry, but especially mature industries like ours, either you gain market share or you die. And if you don't take risks, then you die. So it has been a big risk, but I think it was something that we needed to do in any case.
See, the film is called Journey of Desire, and you're talking about the thing you wanted most in the company was emotion. Do you think that that's an opportunity that the fashion industry had missed? That fashion, to me, is a very emotional thing, but the industry wasn't catering to people's emotions or desires until Gucci came along the way it came along with Alessandro.
I completely agree with you. And that is not just about aesthetic. It's not just about product. To sustain this change that Alessandro did in terms of aesthetic, I needed to have people that were behaving exactly the same way, either in the corporate, on a daily basis, and in the shops. And the energy, the smiling, the way in which we wanted our shop to be inclusive and not exclusive, the possibility to get in touch with our product without being too messy, creating a real passion versus the customer, not because you want to sell, but you want to retain it, and to call it again, to make sure that it creates a kind of a complicity. And yesterday I was visiting our shops here in Sao Paulo, and frankly, when you see these people, the energy, the passion, the smile, you see that you are in the right direction. And the team that we have here. So I think that in looking at Sao Paulo, when I came here yesterday, I think Gucci went Brazilian, frankly. Really, talk about energy, smiling, passion, feeling, good energy. I think I didn't know it, but I was thinking yesterday that we became Brazilian in reality.
Carlos, from your point of view, do you agree with Marco that there was a missed opportunity there to really play to people's emotions and their desires, and the success of Gucci in Iguatemi has just been so extraordinary that it kind of suggests that people were waiting for this?
I fully agree with Marco. We've been talking yesterday a lot about this, and at first it was very different from what they were doing. So it was a big risk, but you know, I was thinking when Marco was talking about this, it's like looking to art. I mean, sometimes you don't understand, you know, the value of that change, but then you go and try to understand the history behind, and then you fully understand the idea. And then when you understand the idea, and that's the values and the culture that Marco was talking about, and you see the passion, bringing back the emotion, bringing back, you know, not only instruments that are important to the fashion industry, but for the society. You know, last week they mentioned that they were not going to use fur as a material. So I think the idea that Marco and Alessandro bring to Gucci is exactly what you see in the younger generation right now. So there's a match between, you know, what people expect to this new world, you know, which is friendly, which is more evolving, which is more emotional, where you feel more related to the products you're wearing. And I think that Gucci is far beyond everybody else, and you see people following. I see the impact of Gucci in the Brazilian industry. You know, and I think that I always joke that the world is going Brazilian, because, you know, when I was a kid going to Europe, you know, everybody was so formal. There was the kings, and everything was so tight. Nowadays, you see that people are more relaxed. You know, and we were always that way because of our weather, because we never had, you know, that's kind of life. And I think life is becoming more enjoyable, and I think that Gucci is translating that enjoyable and beautiful and wonderful life that people want them to have.
But do you think that with the color and the extravagance and the eccentricity of Gucci now, that there's a natural affinity with Brazil in a way?
I think that, you know, we are a colorful country. Yesterday we have a demonstration where we had this cocktail in the Carlos Jereissati, and I know I want to present some parts of our culture, and you see the color, you see the light, the energy. We had a small demonstration of samba. You know, you saw the energy, and I think the words Marco used to define this energy that is behind Gucci, I think that reflects, you know, how Brazilians react to life with a lot of energy, with a lot of color, with a lot of emotion.
Now, you mentioned the impact Gucci's had on Brazilian fashion already. Marco, when you're traveling, do you see a global impact for the company?
Sure, I see many brands copying us. So you globally,
in a word,
but everywhere. So yes, and I like that, in the sense that the more they copy us, the more we keep on keeping the distance, because they're just following. And I like that, because what I'm seeing outside, it's very weird. I mean, many brands think that copying one product or a little bit of communication, they think they're going to come and to create a problem to us. But they don't get it. The problem is that either you are authentic today, and you are transparent, otherwise, especially millennials and younger generation, they're going to scout it. So you can have a short-term win in terms of sales, but you're going to destroy the brand. So until now, maybe it's a little bit too strong to say, but until now I didn't see any brand to make this kind of change, because someone did good products, but they put them in the same concept of shop. So then the communication is going to be different, or the previous communication. There's not a 360 approach. The beauty of Gucci is that we have a lot of autonomy. Myself and Alessandro, we really decide what we want to do. I don't need to convince anybody else. Of course, I need to present the strategy to the board. But apart from that, we can decide everything in an instant moment. So it's not a kind of a democracy in a way. And especially, and that is very true, when you do big turnaround, at the beginning, you cannot search for consensus. You need to decide and taking the responsibility of it. So being fired, maybe, or getting the money for the success. So then, afterward, as soon as something is more clear, in Gucci it happened like 12 or 18 months afterwards, when the positioning, the aesthetic, the values were more clear to everybody, to all the 11,000 people of Gucci, then you can empower and to push down the responsibility. And now I work much less, so that's the reason why I'm here to talk, instead of working in Milano. And that's amazing.
Do you think that you've created a workable template for other businesses? That I know you said that people are copying the style, but obviously, if they don't copy the substance, then it's a sort of meaningless gesture. But if you step back, would you say that you've created this model that companies brands who really need a good boot in the arse could apply to their own businesses?
Listen, if I look back now, I can write a book of how smart I was, and all the decisions were perfect, and etc. But in fact, at the beginning, we really did this kind of choices because we felt it. Then it happened to be that these decisions were exactly in sync with the millennial values. So passion, energy, transparency, self-expression, but it was not a marketing choice. It happened to be perfect in line with the external scenario. So I would love to have a magic formula and maybe to move to another brand and do exactly the same thing. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. It will not happen. And it's a matter of momentum. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of people. It's a matter of the values of the brand. Gucci is different from other brands. Alessandro is there and is perfect for Gucci. Maybe it could not be perfect for other brands. That time of fashion, everybody was boring. And they needed someone to create a disruption, a change. So everybody was waiting for something. We should remember always that fashion is an industry of offering, not of demand, especially luxury fashion. We anticipate trends. So in anticipated trends, when I see the forecast of all these consulting companies saying fashion is going to grow 2% next year, if I do something good, I can grow 50%, 60%, because I create demand. Because we don't need any more shirt or any more suit or any more anything. We have everything. You buy if you fall in love with something. Then if I'm able to create something that makes sense, I'm able to communicate it, talking not in a rational way, but in an emotional way, then I shift the paradigm.
But what you're saying there is that fashion has been paralyzed up until now. I'm curious how both of you think about that idea, that there has been this strange kind of paralysis in the industry.
I think that, for like you talked about the template, people got used to certain attributes, and they think that will create a eternal path for them. Companies, they are kind of like this, but we forgot that the generations and the people are changing, and there's a lot of forces in the society, and we need to adapt at every certain time to this new generation. And like I fully agree with Marco said, you have to look forward and present things that are not seen perfectly to the people, but you, and I think that's the beauty of leadership like Marco had in Gucci, is that some people, they know and they have the information and they know the words, but they don't do anything with them. And when you see those trends and you look forward and you try to create something that is meaningful to people and relevant to them, then you have a fantastic moment like Gucci is having. I think, I know that it's very tough, if we have a company with that size like Gucci and a restored luxury brand, to make that change, to believe in this new generation, to really be true to the new ideals that people are living in this new society is not, but that's the only way companies will survive in the future. It's really being able to adapt, to understand, and make that move. Why? If it's the distribution, if it's the concept, if it's the new values, you really need to adapt to survive and to be strong in the future.
And I think I know millennial is the word that people bandy around, and I have an issue with an entire massive protean generation of people being slapped with one label. But one thing we are told about this group is that they are not loyal in the way that people were once loyal. How is that impacting your business? Gucci seems to defy that in a way, because people are obsessed with Gucci, and because Gucci now is a culture. But how do you see that in your business going forward, if people aren't loyal the way they used to be?
I think people are loyal if you are relevant to them, if you are true to them, in a way that they really see a connection between what you do and what they expect in their lives. We are, in our business, a lot of activities, different activities at the same time. We have the retail, which is a very important part. We have other activities. And again, I think that if you were able to pay attention to them, especially now, Marco talked about transparency. I think more than ever, everybody knows everything. Everybody follows everyone, with all the social media, with all the gadgets that people have nowadays to follow your life. You need to be what you are truly every day, every minute, and communicate that to people. And I think we have tried in our business, in all the things that we put our customer first, understand what they want, and move forward and being able to do that. For example, like some years ago, the cinemas, we created the booked cinema. People can reserve their seats. It's one of the things that Mark was talking about, and nobody believed in that. Even the cinema business didn't believe that. The Americans told me, no, it's not a programmed people to go to the cinema. It's an impulse thing. I said, no, I don't believe that anymore. We see that people have a lot of things. They want to be sure that they will not lose their when they reach. They're gonna have a nice place to sit. And we did that, and it became a hit. And almost 30% of Brazilian cinemas nowadays have this booked seats, the best places in the country. So you have to look forward, understand the meaning. What is people have less time? They want to have fantastic moments in their lives. How can you create that moment for them? And I think our venues are about that. It's to have fantastic brands like Gucci that inspire people, and other activities that makes people's lives easier, better, enjoyable.
Because another thing we hear, it's not just the lack of loyalty, it's also the lust for experience. What you're talking about there, that people booking a movie, it turns going to a movie into an event, and an event is an experience. And I think this is one thing that Alessandro has really moved the goalposts with, that he understands the value of experience. So the last fashion show, the last Gucci show was like a rave. And so traditional fashion journalists were sitting there saying, I can't see anything. But that wasn't the point. The point was to have this massive, ravey experience. And I'm curious about that with Gucci, that to me is a huge change, that Gucci is now not just a brand, it's an experience. Everything about the brand that you do adds to this transformative thing in people's lives. So it's less about fashion and more about atmosphere and experience.
Yeah, it's very much about, again, about the emotion, and you were outlining perfectly what happened to the last show. Some journalists, they were complaining about there was too much dark in the room, they didn't see the thread in that's not exactly what we were trying to do. I don't really care. Buy a pair of glasses. But the point is, in getting back a little bit to the definition of millennial, I totally agree with you. I mean, what does it mean, millennials? It's like half of the worldwide population. No, it's not a segment by definition. No, so it's a one-to-one approach. Every person is different. So if you start from there, then transparency becomes key. And what I think where Alessandro was magic was when he started communicating through digitals in a very different way. Opening. If we go back 3 years ago when we started, I don't know if you remember, but all the brands, they were ashamed about their logo. I still remember the Gucci, even Gucci, at that time, they were communicating to the investor, to the analyst, the sales of products without logo and with logo. And the more the without logo was going up, the more they were proud of it. And to me, it's totally stupid, because at the end, you have an heritage that you cannot be prisoner of the legacy, because it's going to be your roots. But you invest for 100 years in a logo and you want to show it, then, of course, you need to show it in a modern way. And that, going back to your question, where Alessandro has been exceptional. I tell you a story. 4 months after we started, Alessandro called me and he asked me, you know, Marco, I saw this guy, this artist, that is copying us. He's writing the logo on all the walls in New York, he's selling shirts with the logo, but in a very interesting way. What do we do? So I don't know, Alessandro, do you like what you do? It does? Is something different? It's coming from the streets, so it's something, I love what it does. So the normal reaction would have been from a luxury company to call the lawyer, call it the artist, suing him, and destroy the guy. Instead, what we decided is say, look, let's do a contract with him and try to understand how he feels about Gucci today, how he sees Gucci, how he sees the logo. And so we started the very first collaboration of Alessandro with the streetwear, that is Trevor Andrew, Gucci Ghost. And from there, we opened the world of luxury, the world of Gucci, to someone else, giving him the possibility to interpret Gucci from a side that is not the corporate side, not the internal side, but from outside. And that to me is very modern. It's a completely different way of approaching luxury, the logo, etc. But it's very modern in the sense that you accept that the world is not just you imposing, also understanding and accepting what other people think about you. And then you create creativity again. It's a very exponential way of thinking about creativity. Today, most of the kids, most of the young talents, they don't like to work in a company. They don't like to do the 9 to 5. They like to stay at home, they like to travel, but they like working as well. So how do we intersect these people? So what kind of crowd creativity we should put in place in terms of using the digital, using the web, and creating this kind of huge movement helping you in shaping the brand. So if you're able to do so in a way that is attracting talent, attracting people that they want to tell you how they feel about Gucci, and accepting the fact that some mistake could happen, because that is the other thing of luxury. You cannot be perfect anymore. I remember when I was working in Bottega 6 years ago, any single word that you journalists were writing after an interview. We were scouting, and this guy is not understanding what I'm saying. And today, the information are so frequent, you don't care anymore. Because it's more about the full picture, the show. It's not about the pen, it's about the full emotion that you have at the end. So that, to me, is the big revolution that Alessandro created.
Now, because one of my pet theories for a while has been that heritage is highly overrated, and actually, to a large degree, the people who are discovering Gucci could care less that it's 100 years old, and the logo isn't something that you know, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton had on their luggage in 1950 or something. And I think heritage is highly overrated in a way, and what Gucci has proved is that you can make a completely new heritage like that. You can create a completely new language, like Alessandro. Now we have Gucci ads with space creatures and monsters and robots and this incredible fantasy world that he's made, which is now Gucci heritage. But I want to know how important heritage is still in retail. Do you really think people go shopping because they're buying a label which is 100 years old, or does it matter anymore? That kind of authority, is it relevant?
I think what is relevant is you have a powerful structure. You have, you know, the whole environment that is created, you know, and gives you the opportunity to take all those resources that you have, you know, the money, the people, you know, the structure and the distribution, which is very tough to put in place. It's not easy to have 500 stores around the world and people involved with your brand. But when you propose something new and you have that structure, and I think when I see Alessandro, and it's very true what he meant. You know, he's a young guy. He knows what he's proposing. And when you see the leadership that Marco's talking about, to understand, and because you have this preconception ideas that, you know, like you said, if you have someone copying you, you get the lawyers. But then you realize nowadays that you have to be smarter. You have to to use everything that is happening around the world into your advantage. I think so. Heritage and this, it's more knowing who you are, the resources you have, and the responsibility you have with the new, with the future, and be able to implement, which is the tough part. It's not easy to take all that and try to transform in the next level, or in the next decade, or in the next 100 years, you know, and the strength you had, which it's very powerful. Also with Mr. Pinot, because, you know, I don't know if my father would understand if I take some of those various different ideas, but, you know, it's really relevant, and I think that's what makes a company relevant for the future, and the people who works with you. Because Marco mentioned one thing that's really true. When people nowadays, they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to have their lives, they want to manage their lives, and how we involve them within a company. I mean, even if they had the same dreams that you have, they had the same joy that you have and what you're doing. And I think if you can make that inside a company, then you have a group of people that will work with you and have the pleasure to do that.
Actually, I was just thinking while you were talking then, and thinking that the question I'd like to ask Marco, it's not so much about heritage. It applies to your business equally. It's, to me, the magic word these days is storytelling. And that's what I feel people respond to in everything. I mean, every part of people's lives. Storytelling is one of the oldest human activities. And it's also a very reassuring thing when times are very confused, and as they are right now, you know, globally. What do you have to say about that notion of telling stories? How critical is that for Gucci, and how critical is it for Iguatemi?
It's absolutely important in the sense that there's a fil rouge in what we did from the beginning. We started with Alessandro to say we want to create a dream. And when you talk about dreaming, you talk about story, you talk about something that you create, and everything should make sense in a way that is higher than the one that you come from. And his heritage and legacy, going back to what you were saying and link it to this storytelling, is key in the sense that you have these people, especially for Gucci, that are working for, in terms of craftsmanship and quality and capability of working with Alessandro and giving form and materiality to his way of thinking. This, to me, this heritage is the one that we need to keep and to foster and to invest. We don't need necessarily to talk about it, in the sense that there was a lot of communication until 3 years ago about craftsmanship quality that is all rational. It's all rational. So if you want to talk to a different part of your brain, you need to talk about emotion. And when I joined Gucci, there were, in any office in the world, pictures of, as you said, Richard Barton with the luggage, of all black and white. And I saw all these pictures that are beautiful. Everybody in the company was very proud of all these pictures everywhere, but they were all dead. Everybody was dead on these pictures, all of them. So how can you really think about the next 20 years and you get inspired by pictures that who cares about it? I mean, most of the kids today, they don't even know who these guys are. So yes, you need to be proud, but you need to be proud of something that is real. So our craftsmanship, our artisans, our people, these are real. This is legacy. This is the real heritage. The rest is something that is past. That is fine. So it's better to be 100 years old than 1 year old. But at the end, because of what Carlos was saying, we have the shops in the best location with something that creates a kind of a barrier of entry for someone else. But apart from that, then forget about it. Use it. But you need to think about something else. And then you need to teach a story and tell a story. And everything is a story. It's a story the way in which I met Alessandro, and we kept on repeating it because it's so beautiful, that it's so amazing to think that fashion today, if you think about it, in most of the cases, they are all the same creative directors of 20 years ago. Is it possible? Meaning, is it possible that nobody came out from the younger kids to take the lead in a big fashion brand? How is it possible that Alessandro stayed 12 years below someone that he didn't respect in terms of design, accepting it? So how many persons, how many talents, either in design or in the companies, are just there to be scouted and how can we spot them? And then if we are able to spot them and to get them hired, despite the seniority, because otherwise sometimes the experience is going to be your worst enemy, especially today. What you need to do as a leader today is, in most of the cases, is unlearn what you learned, is inspired, not to teach. You cannot teach to these kids this kind of knowledge. I will never have it. So I need to make sure that they are blended together, this passion, I'm supporting them. That is the most difficult thing, is try to change the culture. Doing a product is the most easy thing. Changing the culture, doing the storytelling, creating a dream is the most difficult one, but it's the most exciting one.
Because it's this mix of respect and irreverence that's a very, very hard balance to strike. You can respect something, but you can also be very, very cheeky with it. And that, to me, is a wonderful lesson that Gucci has taught as well. That what I see with your business is the way you've opened up fashion to all these other things. Food is important, and movies are important. When you walk out into that mall, you just see everything going on at once, which is a new kind of story as well for retail, isn't it?
Because it's all about people's lives. It's about, the way they're living and how you enter their lives and how you participate in their lives and create these moments. And you have, if the families are changing, if you have younger people, if you have, to revere the past and understand where you came from, all the resources you have, but also to really keep in mind that things will evolve and you need to change if you want to continue to be relevant. And again, I think that what I see in Gucci, it's also a word called what I call freedom. When I was in the fashion show in Milan, last one, which was amazing, and I felt that way. Like the guy gives you the chance to be who you are. And I think that speaks to the young people nowadays. You're not, follow one direction that everybody, like I was admiring in the suit of Marco with the funny thing, and he's always, you know, amazingly done, and he has his own touch. So you have your expression, and people are they want to be more, you know, protagonists of their lives, and I think the clothes can do a lot to do with them, and I think Alessandro helps us. In our business, we try to do as well, you know, with all the activities we have inside the mall, we try to look, I mean, how young people are having lunch, what they want to do, what kind of food they want to have nowadays. I mean, if they want to sit in a big table with everyone else and whatever. So many things that you have to pay attention and really be, to have the empathy to do that. You know, it's not about you when you're in a company, it's about the people you're serving. And if you are able and really like to pay attention to the people you're serving, I think you're going to do well.
You mentioned freedom, and this to me is a very interesting idea with Gucci right now. I'm curious as to how you think the political situation in the world, I talked about this sort of confusion and the way things are changing in all the major the major societies around the world. There's a time of huge uncertainty. Whether what Gucci offers, which is a kind of, it's a dream and it's a trip and it's escapist, is more important at a time like this, and whether maybe that has helped Gucci, that people just go and see this glorious, colorful, extravagant, eccentric celebration of creativity and craft, and whether that becomes an escape from the dreary everyday stuff that we're confronted by, whether you think that's contributed to the success of the brand.
What you should say that I would divide things in two parts. The first one is what we read in all the papers, in all the TVs, all bad news, all negative news. Then if you look at the data, in reality, is the biggest moment in history of opportunities. All the data in terms of percentage of extreme poverty, reduction of birth rate in terms of kids, everything is improving dramatically. The number of resources that we have everywhere in the world are not scarce, are a lot. If you think about water, everybody's talking about water scarcity. The reality, you have, with the technology today, in Israel, you have 100% autonomous with desalination. So why you don't push that? Why we don't talk about it? So I think outside everybody is expecting that leaders, government, big corporation, are giving a good message and a positive message, because optimism and good expectation create a virtuous circle. So I think we should ask ourselves why people are interested in bad news and not in good news. That is what's happening today. Any papers that you open, there's always bad news. Instead, optimism. I don't want to be optimistic just to be happy in the sense of stupidity. That is not what I would like to be. But it's really something that creates optimism as well. And then you can show it. And frankly, all the data, there are many scientists today everywhere in the world, especially in the US, Peter Diamandis, Ray Kurzweil, they really talk about this world of opportunities. That could be, that is not underestimating what's happening in the world. We know that there's poverty, we know that there's a migration problem, especially in Europe. There are many aspects that are not doing well, but there are many others that are amazing. And especially today, where technology can help you in creating a better life, in improving wealth, creating as well potential troubles, because in 15 years from now, 50% of the workforce worldwide will be at risk if they don't change where you're working. So, but we know that already, so we should be prepared to do so, and making sure that we have training able in the government, in the nation, etc., to push. So the role of big corporation, of Gucci or anything else, is to make sure that this kind of messages passes. Then Gucci has this message of passion, energy, freedom, joy. It doesn't necessarily mean that Prada should do the same, or Vuitton. Everybody needs to follow his own path. But overall, I think we are living in a world where there are going to be a lot of opportunities, especially for the younger generation. So I'm very much on the side of positivity than negativity.
I have one more question before we ask for questions from the audience, and that is about Gucci's 10-year sustainability plan that you announced last week. This is corporate good behavior, but it's also critically important. It also speaks the language of this millennial culture we're talking about. It leads on for me to the notion of the sustainability of Gucci's current aesthetic. The corporate sustainability is one thing, but the creative sustainability of Gucci, the impact, I mean, I can't imagine you thought it would be as big as it is now in 2 years. I can't imagine you thought it would happen that fast. Does it ever seem like it's too fast? Do you worry that it applies to you as well, to your business, Carlos, when you see this kind of change, rapid, unprecedented? Do you have 4 o'clock in the morning where you're thinking, uh-oh?
No, I was not worried when we did the change and I pointed at Alessandro. No, I'm worried today. You know, the point again, we go back to the situation of before, the discussion of before about negativity and positivity. When I'm doing well, I need to be worried because something's going to be bad. When I'm doing bad, I'm bad, so I'm always bad. So the point is, we need to enjoy the trip. And I'm enjoying a lot what is happening in Gucci today. And I'm not worried about the future, but I'm working to make sure that the future is going to be sustainable. And it's not just a matter of aesthetic, because I think that if you compare the business of Gucci today versus the business of Gucci 18 months ago, it's very fast, 18 months ago, the solidity of the offering that we have in terms of iconic product is by far much more sustainable today than it was 18 months ago. Then, the world is going to change, no doubt. Luckily, we have talented people, and this, for me, is going to be the point that I want to stress about the future in fashion. Technology will certainly impact fashion, the way in which leather can be created in vitro, 3D printing, face recognition when you enter the shop, for sure, no doubt. But we will never be leader in technology in fashion. Technology for us should remain a tool. But the difference will be made by people, even more than in the past. Because if we go into the one-to-one relationship with the others, I want to have the best with me to make sure that they deliver a message of passion, of creativity, etc. So I'm not worried. I think we have a huge opportunity to sustain this kind of growth. And frankly, if you look at the KPIs of Gucci, our possibility to grow even faster is there. There's no doubt about it, and my team is definitely with me. There's no pressure. The point, again, I think that this kind of push and attention to people needs to remain there. And if tomorrow the scenario standard from a aesthetic standpoint will change, Alessandro will be able to scout it before anybody else, before me for sure. And when someone is saying that Alessandro is doing the same thing, if you look at the first show 3 years ago and the show that you saw recently, they're night and day. Alessandro is writing a book, but he's writing different chapters of the same book. They're all related together, but they're all different. So, and again, we are lucky to have these people working with us, these creative people, these creative directors. They're not normal in the sense that if you find them, you need to make them in a situation to be free, to express themselves, to be protected, to give them all the support possible, not to talk about figures. I never spoke to Alessandro one single time about budgets, never. Because I know that he has the possibility to show himself what he really feels about it. The revenues impact is going to be even better. So I take care about numbers. It doesn't need to be bothered about this kind of thing. I do my job. We respect the different competencies. I would never be able to do what Alessandro is doing. Impossible. I'm not this kind of guy. But he would never be able to do what I do as well. So we need to make the right balance.
So this is the language that young Brazilians are hungry to hear, do you think?
Yes, while Marco was speaking, I was thinking about, sustainability. in time. I mean, our first mall did 50 anniversary, 50 years last year, and we are growing this year double digit, and it's impressive, you know, the ability that this place, 50 years old, continues to grow and be part of our society. And that means that, you know, how innovative people who work with us needs to be in order to continue to grow the business and to make sense to everybody going back there even like a daily basis. We have customers that almost every day are there. So you need to follow, to understand, to have this passion, to really don't get tired, you know, get the energy to serve your customer well, to really understand everything that is happening in your society and push it into the right direction. We were discussing yesterday now with all these complex views around the world with, you know, populist governance and everything, how companies, they have a very important within and people can trust you. So that's the kind of sustainability that I would love to see in my company for a long, long time.
Well, that was just about the fastest 50 minutes, I think, in history. But Lillian is going to take questions from the audience now. Thank you very much. It's very inspiring.
A conversa está ótima, né? A gente recebeu muitas perguntas, algumas foram respondidas ao longo do painel, então, mas tem muitas ainda, vamos tentar fazer o máximo que der. Essa, Marco, it's for you. To embrace a new generation is to give up of a client that is loyal to the brand. To embrace a new generation is to give up of a client that is loyal to the brand.
To be loyal to a brand in the new generation?
To embrace a new generation.
To embrace a new generation, again, what we tried from the beginning was not try to target anybody. It was not just a marketing activity. And going back as well from the discussion we had about the millennials not being loyal as the previous, like the baby boomers. In reality, what we see in Gucci is that the retention rate of millennials in Gucci is higher. And again, it's a matter of engagement. If they understand what you're saying and you try not to cheat them and you're very authentic, they come back to you. They enjoy a lot to come in our shops, luckily. I mean, of course, the role of the person in our shops, the team, is key. So first and foremost in Gucci, what we try to do is please our team in the shops, because if we take care about them, they're going to take care about the customers. If you think about the transmission circle, that is going to be even more important. So the people in Gucci needs to be happy, need to feel the passion. And I'm not saying that we are perfect, we just started, because I mean, when we talk about 11,000 people, of course, there's going to be situations around the world that are not the one that I'm telling you. It's not, you know, it's normal. There's going to be harassment anyway, but they know, everybody knows that we don't accept that. There's no compromise. Everybody is trying not to be respectful or be harassing other people in Gucci will be fired immediately. Because I mean, we don't want to have these people. They can go and work wherever they like, not in Gucci. Because we want people that really come to work with a sense of, you know, engagement. So the loyalty, I think, is coming from there. Even for me, it's more important the loyalty of my team and my people in the company than the loyalty to the consumer. That is something that's going to happen in a natural way if I'm able to create this kind of energy in the company.
Carlos, what do you think Iguatemi has in common with Gucci?
Passion. And talking with Marco all these days, you know, it's the common vision. You know, it is respect for. It's an understanding that, you know, as long as you have this energy, the passion, you believe in what you're doing, and you are being very true to yourself and to the customer, you have, like Marco mentioned, it's not the aesthetics, it's what is behind. It's the idea behind. I want to show my shoes. I don't know if you saw. There's a different design in both sides. Normally, I would never wear that, But when I entered the Gucci shop like a few months, a year ago, and with Roberto, and it was presented for me, and I was thinking, I'm this kind of guy. I'm a fun person, but somehow I became, throughout the years, a boring guy, and I wanted to go back to the funny part of my life, and I saw that the guy was bringing back this joy. So it is like this is the kind of thing that you understand from the aesthetics, but behind is that movement, and I think that's what is. And I believe, and I try to do, and we are trying to push in our company that kind of feeling as well. When what we're doing, and being more fun and being more attached to people. And I think that's a common vision that we share with Gucci.
Marco, how do you see the importance of online business in terms of sales versus physical stores?
So we're going to announce the results of the quarter tomorrow, so I cannot give any figure to anybody. They're going to kill me if I go back to New York. But we do 4%. Yes, it's very important, the online business. The point, it's not a matter of sales in the online. I think that we try to replicate the same kind of experience in online and offline, of course, with a different way of content and the rest. Keeping in mind that today, in most of the cases, the people that are shopping our brick and mortar, they go first in our online shop to look at the products, to understand the prices, to understand the looks, and then they go in the shop to buy, to have the experience with the brick and mortar. So it's definitely key. Then, of course, market by market, the US is by very far the most important market from a maturity standpoint in terms of online. So the percentage of the online business there is more than 10%, and it's growing. The kind of growth that we are experiencing is unbelievable. But I don't think they're going to be one or the other going forward. They're going to be very much complementary in a very seamless way.
Carlos, do you plan to open malls outside of Brazil? Wow.
Not for the moment. I know we all say that Brazil is a continental country and we have a lot of opportunity to grow our business within Brazil, where we understand a lot of our consumers, and I really believe real estate is a very a national thing, and we have tremendous opportunity to grow our venues and again, I don't think in the future that it's about having more physical space everywhere, but it's how relevant the ones you are able to make it more live, more energetic, and more relevant to people. So the balance is to stay in Brazil and make our venues here even more relevant to our customers.
Muito bom, né, gente? Então, chegamos ao fim. Quero agradecer aos nossos convidados, thank you, Marco, Tim, Carlos, a todos vocês pela participação. Gente, a gente está só começando, tá? São 3 dias e daqui a meia hora a gente volta para cá, para o Espaço JK, onde a gente vai ter o próximo painel com o tema Mundos Possíveis, Novos Rumos e Códigos do Mercado de Moda. E no mesmo horário, no Lounge One, que é ali, o workshop de upcycling. Então, espero vocês em meia hora.